Alrighty, how's everyone doing today? Welcome to my channel. We do educational videos here, digging deep to bring you the things that the powers that be don't want you to know. And this even includes the diggers, even includes the people who are out there, anons, who are um, digging for the stuff in the 20th and 21st century, but we're going back further than that. And it seems to be somewhat of a gap there, uh, or a what you would call a blind spot, and that's why the segment is called "Your Blind Side." I believe this is number 22, and so we just try to bring these things to your attention so that you can do some digging yourself and prove me wrong if that's what the facts dictate. Um, I'm always open-minded to being wrong and to adjusting my opinion. I'm not concerned uh, with holding on to what I've said before. I'm more concerned with having the truth the best I can figure out moving forward. So um, now, as you may know, I have got another series of Bible decodes, and so that is one of the main topics I talk about, and that is that the true authors of the New Testament were the Romans, the Caesars of the Flavian dynasty, and um, just how that is going to just uh, create a wrecking ball for really Western civilization history, Western civilizational history, because not only uh, basically the Romans created the Gospels as a psychological operation to um, neutralize the Jews who were a big pain for the Romans, revolting and insurrecting, and otherwise just being difficult to manage in the Romans' giant empire. The Jews were very high maintenance, and that culminated in this war from 66 to 73 A.D. that Josephus writes about in his book War 7 volumes War of the Jews. And the problem is that uh, it looks like it's actually Josephus himself, whoever Josephus was, whether he's writing as a pen name or it's really a person. But if you read his autobiography, um, you can kind of recognize that it probably that he may not have existed because there's a lot of really fantastic stuff in his autobiography. But whoever Josephus was is also the author of the Gospels. And so that throws a huge wrench into just about everything. And then when because not only does it kind of invalidate the New Testament, but it appears as if it invalidates the Gnostic Gospels, the Apocrypha, and many other secular works from the ancient time periods, because they are also written by a very small group um, of Roman members of the imperial court. Uh, Josephus was, um, a member of the Flavian court there for the Romans, and the Flavian dynasty, 69 to 96 AD, and lived there at Caesar's palace. And he hung around with other Roman dudes over there, Tacitus and Suetonius and uh, Emperor Trajan came along, and um, Pliny the Younger. They all kind of were hobnobbing with the Flavian court and then Trajan's court as well. And it looks like they wrote under a myriad of different, maybe not a myriad, but a gaggle of uh, different alias names. And so, and that it purposely tried to deceive history more or less by writing things, backdating the story by 100 years or 40 years or 200 years. And it looks like um, it's very wide ranging, because Josephus himself was, is one of the most important ancient historians out there. Ancient historians, almost regardless of topic, cite Josephus and lean upon Josephus's work as being valid. But when we recognize that he's just part of a psychological operation, then that calls all of that into question. And then when you apply that also to Tacitus and Pliny, then I've been looking at some of Elaine Pagel's work on the Gnostic Gospels, also Candida Moss's work on martyrs, and they're all, they cite kind of, there's not a lot of information out there. Pliny wrote a lot of letters of correspondence between, himself and other Roman royals, and that's what some of these Roman origins hypothesis authors use to kind of construct who is who and who's writing as whom and everything like that. But it's kind of like the same letters get cited all over the place, especially in terms of Christianity. Everybody's always citing Pliny's letter to Trajan, and where he talks about, how he's the governor of one of the provinces, and he doesn't really know how to handle the Christians. This is in the early second century. He considers their faith to be big superstition, but he doesn't really know whether to execute them or just reprimand them or what. And it's all propaganda. They're not um, they're not asking these questions seriously. And at this time, I don't even really think that there are Christians. They are in the process of concocting the entire idea. It's not even a thing. And then, then you add to it that uh, Josephus, or whoever Josephus was, maybe Arius Piso, he backdates and historicizes stuff. So he had control um, over just a lot of texts, and so he would go back and he according to Abelard Reuchlin, at least, he went back and he basically wrote as Aristotle, like 400 years earlier, over 400 years earlier, because apparently Aristotle was just a small author that wrote a couple works on natural history and so on. And then Piso came and he wrote a bazillion volumes on every subject, all of Aristotle's subjects. He might have also stolen them from a different author that nobody's ever heard of now. But anyway, he did the same thing, I think, with the Septuagint. And this is what I was really trying to bring up. The Septuagint is the Greek translation of the Old Testament text. It's named Septuagint because the legend that is only found in Josephus is that you know, I don't even remember who it was. Somebody in Alexandria commissioned uh, 70 Jewish scholars, six from each tribe. That's 72, even though 10 of the tribes had already been dispersed by this point. Um, this is supposed to be in the early 3rd century BC, 295 BC or something. And he commissioned all these Jewish scholars to come down there and prepare a Greek translation of the Old Testament, the Torah, the prophets, and the histories. And I think all that's fake. I don't think that happened. I think actually uh, uh, Josephus just got his buddies, the Herods, Herod Agrippa II particularly, to do the translations for him. And they weren't done in the 3rd century BC, but they were done in the 1st century AD. And while he was doing it, he went into the Old Testament and he altered uh, many verses, and he composed some books himself, such as the Book of Job, which is considered to be like the one of the highest pieces of literature in the Bible. The Book of Daniel, uh, the second half of the Book of Isaiah, uh, and there are quite a few others that need to be examined to see if they stick out like a sore thumb. So I'm not saying that he wrote the entire Hebrew Bible, I mean Old Testament, but he messed with the history in a big way, and I think that uh, the entire classical scholarship is going to have to be completely redone at a certain point because everybody relies upon Josephus, and then I mean more, just about more than they rely upon the Old Testament or the Bible in general. They rely upon Josephus, and if he is seen as being a um, propagandist, then we have to question everything. And really, this guy at Oxford, James Ballantyne Hannay, from 100 plus years ago, he actually believes that the Romans wrote the entire uh, Old Testament, and that in fact that they created Hebrew, and that there were no Jews, that there were no Jews, and that they were created um, by the Romans, and that this entire I can't quite go that far at this point, but I certainly have to entertain it because um, there's just so much missing in terms of our understanding of what was going on back then. And he does have some evidence. He says that Herodotus. Now I don't know why we would be trusting Herodotus exactly, but he was a fourth or fifth, late fourth, early fifth century. I mean late fifth, early fourth century um, BC Greek historian, and he traveled all over the place and wrote histories. And uh, he apparently traveled through Palestine and was within a stone's throw of Jerusalem. And he writes about everything in his uh, memoirs, and he does not mention anything about Jerusalem, even though he went right by it. So um, that's some evidence that he uses. I would have to do more research. Perhaps I would have to learn several ancient languages before I actually had the chops to really dig into this. But I'm hoping that I can at least stir up some discussion and maybe some crowdsourcing on digging into these issues a lot more because we're being hoodwinked majorly by ancient history at this point. All right. Um, like, share, subscribe, comment, and remember to watch your blind side.